Good evening and welcome to episode 56 of the Jacksonian from yours truly, Jackson Johnson. And I've got with me is the host of Couz's Corner, the one and only himself, Justin Couz Walker, as we'll be going over quite a lot about the West Virginia Mountaineer athletic program, including what's been going on with college football, Rich Rod coming back to town, and what's been going on with a little bit of basketball here and there, and we go over a little bit about the bowl preview in the Frisco Bowl. And let me tell you something, folks, it's going to be a wild ride. How you doing today, good buddy?
Doing great, Jackson. Thanks for having me on, brother.
Oh, you're welcome, man. Anytime, man. It's glad we got together again for a second time. It was pretty cool. And
Absolutely.
for those who don't know a little bit about you, would you like to tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I'm host of Couz's Corner, which is my college football channel over on YouTube, and I do a little bit on audio only as well, but mainly YouTube. Cover West Virginia, obviously. I cover a little bit of the Big 12, cover a lot on conference realignment, especially during the off season. So, yeah, if you like Big 12 or West Virginia football, come check that out. And then I have a website, couzescorner.com. And then I have a West Virginia basketball channel as well called Hoops from the Hills. If you want to check that out, haven't been as active on there lately, but for obvious reasons. There's been a lot of all the news has been around the basketball or football program rather. But I will be getting back over to Hoops from the Hills probably this week and getting some content back up over there. So come check that out as well. And of course, if you want to interact with me, I'm on X at Couz206. It's at COUZ206. And then I'm on IG at Couz's Corner 206 as well. And obviously my website is also a place where you can just drop me a line if you want. So that's it, man. That's a lot. Sorry, but I'm everywhere basically.
It's all right. The more the merrier, you know.
I
We
guess.
got to see where you're making magic. I mean, you're like one of the wizards of West Virginia.
I don't know about a wizard now. That's
Yeah. Well, I mean, you and Joey Foster, y'all are wizards of West Virginia. That's for
I
sure.
appreciate that.
I mean it. I always say what I mean. That's the thing.
Appreciate it, Jackson.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, we're going to start the show off with a little something that's not been too happy. The 2024 season, up
Mm-hmm.
and down, up and down, up and
Right.
down. Pittsburgh
Mm-hmm.
coming back. It looks like you're going to win. Then you fall apart. But then you go up against Kansas. You smack Oklahoma State off the face of the earth. You get smacked by Iowa. Well, you lose to Iowa State. Get smacked by K-State.
Mm-hmm.
Up and down again. You win against Arizona. You beat Cincy. You lose to Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
Beat Central Florida. Then get smacked off the face of the earth by Texas Tech.
Right.
Where would you grade the 2024 season for West Virginia football?
D.
D.
And the reason most people will think, well, why not? Why is it not a C? Because you're 6-6. You're literally the epitome of mediocre or average. But the expectations for this year were much higher than that. Fans were expecting an 8 to 9 win football team. Some even predicting 10 wins. You know, the coaching staff kind of hyped this team up going into the year. So we kind of, we followed suit. You know, we agreed with them based on what returning production. Had a starting quarterback returning, a lot of pieces coming back on defense, and almost, a big chunk of our O-line coming back. I mean, there were a lot of pieces returning on this team, and it felt like an opportunity with the Big 12 being the way it was, right? It felt like an opportunity for West Virginia to really make a push and be one of the top teams in the conference, and it just did not pan out that way. As a matter of fact, which we'll get into later. I mean, when the coach loses their job over it, I don't see how you can give it anything but a D, at least a D.
Yeah, because I thought they would be better than 6-6. Like, matter of fact, in the preseason, I had Kansas and West Virginia surprising everybody in the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they'd be better than where they were, but
Yeah, I predicted 8-4, but I thought it would be, but the problem is the games that West Virginia lost were bad ones. Like, you can't lose to Pitt in the way you did. West Virginia was the better football team in that game, in my opinion. And they still found a way to lose it. You just can't do that. And then there were certain games that weren't even competitive. Any of the Penn State game. No, nobody picked West Virginia to beat Penn State, but most people thought West Virginia would at least compete in that game, and it wasn't even close. So it just it it was just an ugly, ugly year. Like you said, it was up and down. But if you look at the teams West Virginia beat, UCF, Oklahoma State, two of the bottom teams in the conference. Kansas, not a bowl team this year, and West Virginia had to come back from 11 down to beat them. I mean, just Cincinnati was not a bowl team either. So I mean, just a lot of bad football teams that West Virginia beat, and then anybody they played with a pulse beat them. So just not what we're used to, West Virginia, man, and something had to be done about it.
Yeah, I mean, the moment that it felt like Neil Brown was going to be gone was when West Virginia lost to Baylor.
Yeah.
That was basically that final nail in the coffin for the Neil Brown era.
Yeah, I think so. Now, Green Baker will tell you, he wanted to wait till the season was over and look at all the pieces. If he had come out and found a way to win that Texas Tech game and finish the year 7-5, I think he has a really strong chance to come back. But you can't go out and lose 52-15 and even have a chance to keep your job for a 6-6 football team.
No.
In year 6 of your tenure, especially. If it's year 1 or year 2, maybe you can live with it. But year 6, it's not acceptable.
That's bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like you got your own guys, and you can't blame it on, well, I don't have my own guys. Well, the portal. Well, I mean, I've been going through a lot. You can't do that. You can't just go up and going through a lot. That's just, you're out of excuses at year 6, like you said.
Bingo.
It's terrible. But now there's a coaching search.
Mm-hmm.
Who are the finalists besides Rich Rod for the job?
Well, I mean, nobody. I mean, based on rumors and reporting, both, it appeared to be Andy Kotelnicki was a strong candidate, the offensive coordinator at Penn State. I think Jeff Monken and Army had some strong consideration, and then obviously Rich Rod, and then I don't know how strong a consideration he got, but right at the last minute, just a few hours before the Rich Rod announcement came out, Brian Hartline's name popped up as someone who got an in-person interview. So I'm not sure again how was he a finalist? I don't know, but he did seem to be in that small group of people who got in-person interviews. So the three that, like I said, Brian Hartline, Andy Kotelnicki, and Jeff Monken all seem to be, some of the final candidates along with Rich Rod at the end of the day. And of course, Barry Odom was a candidate to begin with, and he fell off the board going to Purdue. So he was in the running. And then John Sumrall, he landed the job, or he decided to stay at Tulane for at least another year. So then he came off the board. But at the end of the day, it all came back to Rich Rod coming back home.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me to see Andy Kotelnicki as a finalist for any coaching position, because, I mean, the job he's been doing at Kansas as the OC and the magic he was doing at Penn State this year as the OC, it would not surprise me if we see him at a Power 4 head coaching job in the next few years. I mean,
agreed.
Yeah.
Yep. My understanding is, and again, I can't confirm this, but based on everything I've read, basically, West Virginia, they have to deal with the portal. They have to, manage that. They have to, put a roster together for the next season, whatever. And, Penn State's going to the college football playoff. And Kotelnicki, I don't think, was comfortable leaving his guys in the middle of a college football playoff run. And I don't think West Virginia was willing to wait. So
yeah,
the timing just wasn't good.
True. But it was a blessing in disguise, because now Rich Rod is back in town in Morgantown.
That's right. It was for me. Now, some fans don't agree with that, but I think the majority do.
Oh, yeah. I think some of those fans that are still kind of mad at Rich Rod for leaving after 07, I think they're going to get over that real quick once they see some returns on the investments that West Virginia has made.
Hopefully. Yeah, I think that's the case too. He said he's going to earn everybody's trust back and start by winning games, and hopefully he can do that.
Well, and I'm looking at it from, outside the view, so to speak. And I watched a little bit of the Pat McAfee show where he had Coach Rod on Friday. I watched a little bit of it, but he was like a kid on Christmas morning opening the present that
Mhm.
he wanted for 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, he was.
oh yeah, and they were like talking about Coach Rod likely going on the show every week
Mhm.
for during the season. I mean, that's a good sign, if anything. And of
I
course,
agree.
he was a former player of Coach Rod's as well, so that definitely helps.
Yep.
And you know how Portnoy has just been like constantly just giving money to help the NIL with Michigan?
Yep.
I'm thinking maybe we see something like that with Pat McAfee for the University of West Virginia. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he's already pledged at least 1 million, and he's claiming he's going to give more. And he said he would be even more on board as far as supporting the university and the athletic department and football programs specifically if they bring Rich Rod on. He said, "Look, I'll support him regardless, but it's going to be at another level with him as a coach, just because it's his guy, right? Like you said, he played for him, he loves him, he's wanted him. He was he told Ren Baker, obviously I would love to have Rich Rod back, but he didn't want to try to pressure him into that. But he did make it clear that was his top choice. And then there are others. Not only that, the PR that you get from going on that show is going to keep West Virginia in the limelight, hopefully help with recruiting, and put West Virginia on the map from a national level. And then, of course, if they win to go along with that, it obviously is going to be even better. And then not only McAfee, but some of West Virginia's big money people were really pushing for Rich Rod to come back as well. And we expect our NIL to take a pretty dramatic jump in 2025, 2026 at least, on the football side, just for the simple fact of Rich Rodriguez being our football coach.
Yeah, because that's going to tremendously help the university. Because I mean, Central Florida and Cincinnati, they can't compete with that. BYU, I'm not sure if 2024 was one good year or if it's going to be the rest of the long term. But as for Oklahoma State, they're an unknown
Mm-hmm.
situation. Utah's an unknown situation. So West Virginia is definitely in a pretty good position to basically rule the Big 12 with an iron fist.
I hope so. I mean, I don't want to go quite that far yet. I'm kind of be cautiously optimistic, but yeah, I don't know that we're there yet. I mean, obviously Colorado's making noise. You've got maybe Utah's on their. Utah, can they bounce back? Can Gundy and Oklahoma State bounce back? It's gonna be a tough league for sure. But I do think West Virginia is putting themselves in a good position, as good a position as anyone to be competitive. Assuming all these donors follow through and give to the level that I'm hearing they're going to be giving, then I think that I do think that Rich Rod will have a good shot to land a lot of really high caliber talent. And we've all seen Rich Rod has made a living doing more with less. He's recruiting 3-star guys and turning them into 5-star guys. Well, what can he do if he has 4 and 5-star guys? So that's that'll be good to see if they can get some players like that now that he's the coach, or get more players. I shouldn't say any, but more. Can they get more of those types of guys? Neil Brown was landing he was getting 1 to 2 4-star guys a year. Can Rich Rod up the ante and get even more?
Well, when you got Pat McAfee on your side, you're bound to get a whole lot more than what you're getting.
It definitely doesn't hurt.
Yep. If you build it, they will come.
Let's hope.
Well, I believe it can happen because it's like not everybody in the Big 12 is gonna have a Pat McAfee on their side. They don't have a Dave Portnoy on their
Mm-hmm.
side. And as much as I love the magic that Iowa State is bringing, and I love what Kansas State is bringing, and Lance Leopold, I mean, Kansas had one bad year, but still, though, we'll know how they're going to be
Mm-hmm.
doing in the NIL debacle. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just a cluster for them.
Yeah, and I can't believe I left out Arizona State, the conference champion. I mean, they're on the up. They're obviously on the come up.
I made
too.
that mistake too.
Yeah, I mean, Who would have thought they were going to be 10-2 and playing in the college football playoff, right? So what Kenny Dillingham is doing there is awesome. I'm sure their NIL is going to be, get a boost as well. So I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of competition in the conference on the field and even in the NIL space. But I think West Virginia is going to definitely compete, hopefully at the highest level going forward.
Yeah. I mean, it can happen. And I I noticed that the 2025 schedule is definitely a little bit easier.
Definitely. Yep.
Although Ohio kind of looks like a trap game, so to speak.
Potentially, it's on the road, obviously, which is a little odd. You don't normally see. It's rare that you see Power 4 teams scheduling G5s on the road. I mean, Oklahoma State does it with Tulsa here and there, and you see, I've seen Virginia Tech go to Old Dominion, but it's not common. And I know Ren Baker likely would not have done it, but this schedule was made under a previous administration. But Ohio is going to be replacing their coach too, so that'll be an interesting dynamic. So maybe we'll get them at a time when they're trying to rebuild there. That'll be good. And then and it may be good for recruiting. West Virginia loves to recruit Ohio. It's one of their biggest recruiting hotbeds, so maybe that'll help there and get some players, get some recruits to come to the game and spend time with the team and the program and see what Rich Rod's all about. So, I think there may have been some thought there when they put that game on the schedule that maybe they felt like there would be a recruiting benefit to playing that game. I'm not sure. Other than that, but yeah, Robert Morris is an FCS opponent. Then you got Ohio out of the MAC, and then obviously they have their big rivalry with Pitt in week 3. That'll be and then they obviously jump into Big 12 play after that. So yeah, he's definitely an easier schedule than what Neil Brown's had to deal with the last 6 years for sure.
Oh yeah, but of course, we got to finish the 2024 season.
Yep.
And tomorrow is the 2024 edition of the Frisco Bowl between the Memphis Tigers and the West Virginia Mountaineers. What is the mindset for the Mountaineers going into that game?
It's yet to be determined, Jackson. To be honest with you, man, it could go either way. You're either going to get a team who's not focused, who's distracted by the portal, who's distracted by the fact that they have a new coach coming into the program. Going to be playing for an interim coach in Chad Scott. You could get that team, or you're going to get a team who's laser focused, who wants to go out and win a game for their interim coach, who they all seemingly love, who wants to go out and in the season with a victory for the seniors that are going to be leaving. And let's be honest, they might be trying out for they're trying out for this new coach. For the guys who want to stay, this is an opportunity for them to show what they can do for the new coach and new staff. Or if they want to leave, they need to try out for a new program, right? Whoever they're going to be playing for, they need to put one more game on film. So, but again, we're dealing with, you're talking about 18, 19, 20-year-olds here for the most part. Where's their head going to be? That's going to be the huge factor to me. And not only that, they're playing a really good football team in Memphis who has a 10-2 record, only 2 losses being to Navy and UTSA, 2 really good teams. So I'll be anxious to see which team shows up. And if the team that shows up focused, if that team shows up, then I think it'll be a really good football game. If not, then I think Memphis could run away with it.
Yeah. And, I hope I don't upset West Virginia Nation when I say it, but I feel like I'm reluctantly going with Memphis for that game because, I don't know what the status is for the University of West Virginia is. So it's like, when in doubt, I'm thinking, you know what, I'm going to go with Memphis for this game, and it's basically going to be a 35-24 victory because, I mean, Memphis, they don't have anything going on. They're not sitting there thinking about, oh, are we going to be on the Club Random with Bill Maher podcast? Are we going to be on Joe Rogan? Or are we going to be on Pat McAfee? They're not thinking about things like that. They're thinking about, how do we finish out the 2024 season?
Yep. And they have a really good track record in bowl games. They're like 4-1 or something, or something like that in the last few bowl games they played. I don't remember the exact record, but they have a really good track record. And West Virginia has kind of been up and down in bowl games, but again, there's so many unknowns with West Virginia. Like you said, when there's this many unknowns and this many questions on one side and not so many on the other, it's kind of logical to go with the one where there's no questions. And Memphis is favored by, depending on uh, which sports book you use, anywhere from 4.5 to 5. And so it'll be interesting to see if West Virginia can keep it, within a field goal and have a shot at the end.
Yeah, what's funny is I remember when there was a time where Memphis football wasn't exactly all that. They were basically a doormat of the Conference USA, and they didn't do so well in their first year of the AAC. They weren't looked at as a football program. They were looked at as the premier basketball program of
Right.
Tennessee.
Yep.
But now they're the premier. They're one of the premier group of 5 teams in college football.
They are. And they might even look at this game. Memphis may look, and I'm looking at it from their perspective. Memphis may look at this game and be going, "Why in the world are they putting us against a 6-6 team?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now that 6-6 team's out of a power league, so it kind of makes sense in that regard. But they're sitting here at 10-2 with wins. They just beat Tulane a couple weeks ago, right? Who was at one time was a top 25 team, and you're putting us against a team who finished 6-6 and fired their coach. What's going on here? So they could use that as motivation. So it'll be interesting to see which team shows up on both sides of the ball, on the Memphis side and the West Virginia side of the equation.
Oh, great. I mean, I'm curious to see what Coach Silverfield's going to bring out for the future for Memphis. I mean, it looks pretty good.
And I don't want to give away too much because I have a prediction video coming out as well. But
okay.
I can just tell you, I think West Virginia's going to have their hands full. I will say that. And I don't care to share it. I mean, I think this is going to come out after mine. So after my show, I'm picking Memphis to win the game by a field goal. Is basically what I'm predicting. Because I don't think the matchup's good. West Virginia struggles to cover the pass. That's what it's one of Memphis' strengths. Is throwing the football. They have a really good passing offense, really good offense in general. I mean, they can run it as well. And then on the flip side, West Virginia loves to run the football, and Memphis is top 10 in the nation in run defense. So I just don't think it's a great matchup for West Virginia. The only hope I have is that Memphis just hasn't played the level of competition that they need to play to be prepared for this game, and that West Virginia comes out playing like their hair's on fire and ready to prove something. That's the hope I have, and maybe Garrett Green has a great day throwing the football that he has yet to have really this year, and West Virginia can pull an upset here. But to me, when everything points to Memphis winning the game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just one of those it is what it is games. Like, it's like we'll know what happens afterwards. And I do hope West Virginia can win this game, but if they don't, well, 2025 and 2026 are on the way.
Absolutely. New things to new horizons, new era, if you want to say so, right, is on the way.
Yep. There we go. But one thing that's been crossing my mind is that whole Marshall debacle. Like, oh my God, that is such a disaster over there. I mean, it's like, and even though they won the Sun Belt, it was still a disaster. They bought at giving their coach a contract extension, and now it's like 25 players have entered the transfer portal to the point where it's like, okay, we can't play in the ball game against Army.
Yeah.
Sorry, we don't have enough players. That's bad right there. And I feel like maybe it's not moving the needle as much because like Marshall's not a Power 4 program, or more so an SEC Big 10 program.
Right.
I think maybe if it was like a Big 12 ACC team, it moves the needle only a bit. People talk about it for 2-3 days. That's it. But if it's like an SEC or Big 10 program, changes are going to be made quick, fast, in a hurry. You're going to see articles on 3, Rivals, 247, so much.
Yep.
there's going to be callings for, oh, well, we got to make some rule changes now. I mean, me personally, I kind of think instead of having the transfer portal in December, move it up to Valentine's Day.
Yeah, they got to do something. I think you talk about. I was trying to look up as you were talking because I keep hearing different numbers. I've heard some people tell me it's 25 guys. Some have told me it's more than 30. I'm trying to get it, and I haven't been able to nail down an exact number here. I was looking online to try to find it, but so far I've not had any luck. But anyway, the problem, I think, what this Marshall situation is doing is shining a light on the process. Like you talk about the transfer portal. The transfer portal window is lining up with coaching firings, the college football playoff. I mean, you got Bo Prabula at Penn State now, who's decided to enter the backup quarterback at Penn State, entering the transfer portal when his team's getting ready to play for a college football playoff and a shot at a national championship. Because if he waits, let's say Penn State gets all the way to the championship game, the transfer portal window will be closed potentially, or at least almost closed, before he could get in. So these players are being forced almost to decide if they do want to move on, they have to do it before their team plays in a play. I mean, it's a really tough spot, and I don't blame the players in this situation here.
No.
Now, a lot of people are upset that saying Marshall should still play the game because they've got, you got walk-ons, you've got sub backups you can use. You should have enough bodies, but the problem is I think there are certain positions, like offensive line, for example, where I read somewhere that they only have like 3 offensive linemen left. So how do you put you can't field a team if you don't have all your positions filled out. It's more than just the overall number. You got to look at the positions that those guys play. You know what I mean? So it's really unfair. I don't really. I see both sides of the argument, but at the same time, you can't. If you go out there and look at from a health and safety standpoint, if you only got 5 offensive linemen that can play, and one of those guys gets hurt, what do?
Exactly.
You're stuck. So how can you ask those guys to put themselves in that situation? It's just it's a tough. I hate it for Army too, because now they did find an opponent for them, but it's not the same level of opponent. Marshall was a really good team, Conference USA champions. I think that them versus Army would have been a really good football game.
No.
But now I will say, as a Mountaineer fan, I'm really happy for Tony Gibson, who's a former West Virginia assistant and defensive coordinator, who's a West Virginia native, getting that head coaching job at Marshall. But, man, he's got his work cut out for him. He's got a lot of people to replace on that roster.
Yeah. I don't envy him.
Nope.
It's like that's got to be a tough situation for sure.
Yep.
It's just, yeah, because like, but what's going on with the basketball program? How are they doing? The West Virginia.
They're 8-2. Yeah, they're 8-2 right now. They had they played in the Battle for Atlantis tournament a couple weeks ago, right around Thanksgiving. They knocked off 2 ranked teams in Gonzaga and Arizona. Unfortunately, lost a game to Louisville they shouldn't have lost, but they're 8-2 right now. They have They have a win over Georgetown. They have a win over like I said, Gonzaga, Arizona. So they've got some quality wins on their resume. And the 2 losses are to Pitt, who's ended up being a pretty good team, and then obviously the Louisville game. So you've lost to 2 ACC teams. To be honest with you, they started off better than expected. I mean, an entirely new roster, entirely new coaching staff. Everything's completely flipped. So, for them to be sitting here at 8-2, they have a game coming up against Mercyhurst, which should be a win coming up, I think, sometime this week. And then they start conference play against Kansas next week. So theoretically, they should be sitting at 9-2 going into Big 12 play, which is not a bad place to be. The challenge, though, is they're arguably their best player, or at least one of their top 2 best players anyway, their best shooter, Tucker DeVries, who's the coach's son and who's a senior, is out indefinitely with an upper body injury. So there's a chance he may miss the entire season. Maybe he won't. We don't really know, and the coach is not really giving us a whole lot of details on that. So, fingers crossed that he's able to come back and play. But if he's not, it's definitely likely going to impact how well this team plays when they get into Big 12 play, because they desperately need him in more ways than one.
Yeah, I want to see if West Virginia can make it back to the big dance in Coach DeBree's first year. That would be
Mhm.
neat.
Yeah, I think they can, but again, it's with him, if Tucker DeVries doesn't come back, it's going to be it's going to be an uphill battle because we all know how good the Big 12 is in basketball, and I just don't know without a guy who's averaging, I don't even know what he's averaging. He was averaging 14 a game. Uh, you got a guy that and shoots majority of his shots from three. He's a guy that the other team has to account for to take pressure off of your other guys. And plus he's like having a coach on the floor, so it'll be a challenge for them to make the tournament without him. But I think if he's healthy and playing, I think they have a really good chance to make it. But without him, I'm not as confident.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'm not really confident in is Houston trying to win it all or trying to get to a Final Four because they never get it done in March. They always do
Yeah.
well the regular season, but they fall apart in March Madness. Same with Arizona. They do all right in the
Mhm.
regular season, but they fall apart in March Madness. They're both like Charlie Brown at the pitcher's mound.
There you go.
It's like, boom. Yep. Put their clothes back on. Throw the
Yep.
pitch. Put the clothes back on. Like, oh man.
Yeah. There's a lot of teams out there that kind of fit that mold. UVA was like that for years, and then they finally broke through and won a national championship. So maybe Houston can do the same.
Oh man, it's like I still get mad to this day at Virginia because I picked them to win it all 2018. And it's like,
Mm.
ah,
Was that the year they lost to the 16 seed?
UMBC.
Yep.
And I believe that was on TBS. It's like,
Yeah.
I guess the tagline was very funny. So I guess it was very funny indeed.
Yeah.
Especially looking back at it years from now.
Yep.
But there we go. We've got ourselves some exciting days ahead of us, especially the rest of the year. And 2025 is coming to join us real soon. Couz, what magic have you got going on Couz's Corner and on Hoops from the Hills?
Yeah. I just been talking a lot, obviously, about the Rich Rodriguez return to West Virginia. We covered that coaching search, pretty in depth. Um, obviously got some reaction videos to him being hired out as well. And then coming up, I have it should be out by the time this is released, but I have a preview for the Frisco Bowl coming up. And then obviously we're going to be covering, who Rich Rod brings in for his staff. There's some pretty big names out there for DC possibilities. And then on Hoops from the Hills, we'll be covering obviously especially once we get into Big 12 play, we'll probably be doing a lot more coverage. But not people don't get as excited to play Mercyhurst. So, but once we get into Big 12 play, we'll probably be covering that the basketball team more extensively, previews, reviews. I'll have guests on from the other teams, things like that, just to talk about the upcoming matchups and whatnot, and just follow this team through Big 12 play, and hopefully they can make a March Madness run too, and which not only will help me as a fan, but also help out the channel as well. Obviously, more content, but that's pretty much it, man.
There we go. Give old Couz a follow on Threads, on TikTok, and on X, and on Instagram. And give him a subscription on Couz's Corner and on Hoops from the Hills. And of course, give Hoops from the Hills a follow on X as well.
Yep, I'm over there.
There you go. Give
I
him a
forget to
follow.
advertise that because it's kind of new, but yeah, I am over on X at hoops_heels 304.
There we go. I'm happy to look forward to it, man. I am looking forward to that magic on there. And besides, when you come on the show, I'll make sure to advertise.
Absolutely, Jackson. Hey, man, it's great to come on with you again, and I appreciate the invite.
Oh, thank you for coming on. It was awesome. And of course, I'm 111 subs away from that magic number 500 on the channel right here, where I not only produce the Pits Analysis Show and the Final Whistle with Sports Talk with Austin, but the College Basketball Recap Preview Show every Wednesday afternoon, with the exception of next week because of it, well, being Christmas, of course, where Will and I discuss the the latest news and notes on college basketball, what's going on here and there. And of course, there's many more Jacksonian episodes as well. Not only do I make the Jacksonian here on YouTube, but I host Crimson Tide Live every Monday afternoon, 5 p.m. Central Time, with Johnny Burtz as we discuss the latest news and notes. And on Thursday nights, Jeffrey and Only Talk Sports and I take your calls, 9 p.m. Central Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, discussing the latest news and notes on the Alabama Crimson Tide. And of course, you can check out the 17th edition of Crimson Tide Live, where Johnny and I discuss the transfer portal updates and the 2025 SEC schedule breakdown. And for more updates on what I'm doing on the Jacksonian and on Alabama with the Voice of College Football and much, much more, check me out on Jackson VOCFB on X and on Instagram and Threads at Jackson Johnson 543908. And with that being said, we wish you all a happy Monday night, and to stay safe, stay warm. It's cold out. Like, comment, subscribe, click on the notification bell so you never miss no video whatsoever. And I'll catch you next time. And let's help our buddy Couz get to 10,000 subs on his personal channel on Couz's Corner. And let's get him to 5,000 on Hoops from the Hills. Stay safe, stay warm. It's cold out.